All right, once again. So today is the third day for our Pandas classes. So today we'll be looking at advanced operations with Pandas, right? So last time we discussed on data cleaning, how we can use Pandas to perform some form of data cleaning. So today we are going to, it's still part of the data cleaning, but we're going to advance uh, today and see how we can be able to cover up a bit of things. So in today's agenda, we are looking at advanced data frame operations, right? So we're just going to discuss three of them that are very important to us. So the first is merging. The first uh, parameter we're going to look at, or the first operation we are going to look at, is merging. Then the second is what's joining. How do we join um, probably data frames together, or how do we join a particular table to another table? And the last is gonna be concatenation. Concatenation. And for this month, what I proposed was actually that on the third day of each week, we should be having a practical section. And that practical section is going to be most times based on real world data. So I think this week's one is going to be on iris data. But let's see how it goes first. So the practice exercise with real world data. So I'm going to give you a data set and you practice all of this discussed we have discussed so far. But if I don't have my hands on the data, I will I will share the data with you shortly before after the video rather. So it's a very quick one today. Merging. What is merging? Merging allows you to combine two data sets, right? So if you want to combine two data sets, what helps you to achieve this is known as merging. So it is based on, we perform the operation merging based on columns or indexes, right? So it has to be with respect to column or the index value, right? Remember when we talked about list and the index numbers? So most times we can as well perform this merging with respect to column or indexes. So, but when we talk about columns, these columns, they have to be common in both data sets so that we will have something that is known as a primary key. So that primary key is what will allow the merging to flow, to fit in. So it's just like when you have two fittings that you want to couple together, right? And then you know that if this other fitting does not match, if they are not uniform, it will not fit in properly. So what allows us to check for this particular uniformity is known as our common column. So if I have user ID on column A on data set A, I think I should have column ID as well in data set B. And another thing, mind you, is that the column ID on both data sets needs to be the same. They have to be the same so that it will actually fit in other parameters. What do I mean by being the same? The data point has to be of the same shape, right? Like if it has 20 rows, the ID on the data set A and the ID on the data set B must have those 20 rows. So it is as simple as that. And then Pandas provides merge function for these purposes. Number one, provides merge function for this purpose to do what? To combine two data sets. So when you want to combine two data sets, what should come into your mind first is what? Um, the merging operator. So somebody may want to say, why do we want to combine two data sets, right? So there are times where you're working on a project and then you realize that, okay, let's say for instance, sorry, I'm going to dive into the petroleum background again. Okay, you are actually trying uh, to predict the rate at which drilling is done, right? That's ROP, rate of penetration. So that particular feature or that particular variable, rate of penetration or rate of drilling, can be done with two different categories of data. So we can use the fluid, the drilling fluid data, which has to do with the viscosity of the fluid, the density of the fluid, and every other parameter that helps that drilling fluid to either cool the bead and all of those jargons that they say. And also, we can as well make use of what? The formation data. You know, if you realize it's most times you realize that, or the geological data, you realize that when some formations allows quick penetration, while others are hard, you have to grind and grind and hard grind before you can get to where you are going to. So, but there are instances whereby you need these two data to come in together. So your sensor tools does not capture the two data together, right? Because sometimes the how do you call it now? The simulation of the drilling fluid can be done in a lab, right? And then the data being generated from there. And while this other one is being generated on real time while you're drilling. So for you to now understand the rate at which that drilling is done, you have to now do what? Merge that data you got from the simulation you did in the lab and the one you got real time together. By so doing, it will help to make your prediction more robust and as well very, very accurate. So what are the key parameters? The key parameters that we need to consider, the first one is left and right. So if you want to merge, is either you're merging from the left or you're merging from to the right. Let me take that again. It's either you're merging to the left or you're merging to the right. We'll have an example. And another key parameter is how. How do we want this merging to be done? So we have some types of merge to be performed, and the options include number one is inner. Inner, right? What does inner merging does? The first thing, what it does is that it returns the role with matching key in bold data set. So it returns the rows with matching keys. So the rows that has the matching key in both data set, right? So, and this is actually the default um, parameter for how that is used during merging. That when we mean default is that even if you don't assign an option to this particular parameter, how your Python will automatically do what? Pick out this inner option for you. And then the outer option, what does it do? It returns all rows, filling with NA for unmatched keys. right? Can you see this now? So for the rows that does not match with the other data you're filling, it will do what? It will fill it with NA. Remember what we talked about NA in the last class, not a number, right? So when it's not actually related to what you're doing, but you need to still fill in those spaces. So when you begin your analysis now, those spaces that has that NA and becomes what your missing data point. And then we have another option, left. So what does left do for us? Left returns all rows from the left data frame. So it returns all the rows from the left data frame. And we also have the right, right? We have right. What does right do for us? It returns all the rows from the right data frame. So that is how all of these options work on the how parameter. So let's look at the on parameter. What does on parameter do for us? It's columns to be joined on. It must be present in both data frame. So the columns you're joining must be present on both data frame. So when we say data frame, we are referring to the both data set. So let's take a look at the example here. We have, so I created these two data set. So let me bring them out one after another so that we can see the beauty of what I'm trying to explain. So let's see. Oh no, that shouldn't be. Okay. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. All right, so I was talking about um having this guy, right? So let's see. So I created this first data frame and it has ID and name, right? So I now let's try to create the second data frame. The second data frame that should do what? It should have this guy. So this is the second data frame. All right. So this is having ID and name, while this is what ID and score. So this is exactly what I was saying. For this first data set, DF1 has ID and name. DF2 it does what have ID and score. So this ID guy is common here. And if you look very well, the numbers, the values in this ID We have here two, we have three, we have four, but there's no one. So what this guy will do now is that at this point where there is no one, it will fill it with one NA. And where there is four, it will fill this other one with NA. So let's try to merge and see what happens here. So we are merging already. All right. So we merge pd.merge, open bracket, df1, df2. How do we want to merge it? Inner, right? Remember what we defined by inner. Returns rows with matching keys in both data set. And on what do we want to, which column? Column ID, because it's ID that is common on both data set. But there's one beautiful thing here. The one beautiful thing here is that it only displayed the the data set that has the IDs that are the same, right? And then discarded this other one. The reason why this guy played out like this is because of this inner we use, right? So if we decide that, okay, try let's try to use outer and see what this guy would do for us. So let's come here and see if we can make use of outer, right? Um, okay. Sorry about that. Outer. So let's see. Are you seeing this now? So outer will display everything, but where the ID number does not align, it displays what? NAN, NAN, right? So that is exactly what I was explaining to us. So the second operation is joining. So we are joining what? Data frames together. Joining is a method for combining data frames on their indexes using the join method for this purpose. So how is the same, the type of join we want to do, which has to do with left, right, outer, and what? Inner. And then there's isofix. We have R suffix. These suffixes are applied to do what? To overlap column names. So let's try to do this. If you look at this, the same thing happens. Here we are joining df1 dot join df2. Then how do you want this joining to be done? On the outer, right? Print join. If you run this, I'll be having what? This guy. Because remember what we said before. Okay, let's try to run this other code separately and see what we are going to have. All right, so this is it here. We have name Alice, Bob, and Charlie, 85, 90, and 78, right? So the first guy, this is printing NA here for me because there is no what? There is no um ID 1 on the score sheet. So if you look at the score sheet, even here, there was no ID 1. And on the name, there is no name on the fourth guy. So that's why we are having here, there is no name, and here as well. So for concatenating data frame, concatenation is used to combine data frames either along rows or columns using pd.concat, right? So the key parameters that we know are objs, list of data frames to concatenate, and then axis whether to concatenate along rows. So when you're concatenating along rows, you use the value 0, and then when you're concatenating along columns, you use the value 1. So let's join how to handle indexes, right? The same way, outer becomes the default for this other guy for concatenation, and then inner is another option. So ignore index. If true, do not use the what? Do not use the index value along the concatenation axis. So let's run this. We have AB, and then we have what? AB here as well. And then this is 1, 2 for A, 3, 4 for B, then the same A, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this one concatenates along, remember when we say 0 is along what? The rows. So it will bring this row and put it underneath here, right? So it's as beautiful as this. So I now have AB 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, 7, 6, 8, right? So this practice exercise, we will load a data set that contains employee ID, right? Name and department. And then get another data set that has to do with what? Employee ID and salary. Then your task is to do what? Perform the inner merge and display the combined. So you will get this data set. Pardon me for doing this. It's part of the job. You get this data set. So you can even do a synthetic data. And then you have name, employee ID, name, and department, employee ID and salary. Then your task is what? To perform an inner merge and display the combined data set. Perform the same thing here. And then the second one, do for joining of data frame, and the last one, do for what? Concatenation. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this so that you'll be sure of what you've learned this week. That's why today's class is very, very brief. So it's all about the practical section. So you get back to work and ensure you perform this exercise that is being given. So thank you very much for staying around.